It's called Boardman River Restoration. Go ahead and take a listen.
My name is Frank Dituri. I work for the Grand Traverse Band of Ottowa, Chippawa Indians. I'm a wetland ecologist, project manager, and I'm here with Hank Bailey, who's a fish and wildlife technician. He's a member of the Grand Traverse Band, and he's also an elder. And the presentation will be a brief overview of what the project entails, and then a Native American perspective on dam removal and how that affects our Mother Earth. It's really interesting to be at the conference. First time I've been here. A lot of things going on. When I looked at the conference recommendations, it seemed like there were a few areas that topics or subcomponents are going to be put into boxes with, and one was Great Lakes and success stories in the Great Lakes restoration. We fit into that box. Well, another was collaboration. We fit into that box. The scientific and data collection, we fit into that box too. Education, I think those are the four components, and we fit into that box too. So we thought we'd just put something together that talked about the project from a 30,000-foot view, if you will. I'd like to thank all the funders, the Great Lakes Coalition funders. I'd like to thank the folks that invited us here to present, and all the funders, the steering committee, the folks that really put all the work together to have something like this put together, and really appreciate being able to participate. I was asked by the city manager, this fellow's name was Ben Byfoss. Just a quick little story. I've been on the implementation team for a couple of years now, and the implementation team it's a team that was put together for a decision-making process to help guide the decision for the fate of these dams that we'll be talking about. And just to get things going, I will be covering that. To get things going, we were sitting in a meeting with Ben 8 months ago, as we realized funding and support had reached levels that seemed reasonable. Ben was always pretty much the hardline skeptic in the group, the one who was the realist, and when he sat back and looked at all of us on the implementation team, he said, "This is really going to happen." It was an amazing thing, and just all of us looked at each other. And after quite a few years of work, we could see that we had won the realization and the trust of someone that may not have thought that it would come to fruition as soon as it did. The project is to remove Brown Bridge, Boardman, and Sabin dams and modify Union Street Dam with 4 dams on the Boardman River, northwestern Lowell, Michigan. That'll come up here, and for folks that do the hand thing in Michigan, we're up in the northwestern corner of Lowell, Michigan. And it's to return the Boardman to a more natural cold water, free-flowing river. It's the largest dam removal project in Michigan's history. 4 dams on a river, on an 18-mile stretch of river, is something that hasn't been undertaken. As we see the age of structures and dams in Michigan and throughout the United States, these structures are all coming to their design age and are past their design age. And we're on the cusp of decisions that will affect other decisions as we move forward in dam removal projects. This, again, is the largest dam removal project in Michigan's history, and it receives or provides unparalleled environmental, socioeconomic, and recreational benefits. The implementation team that I mentioned earlier is composed of stakeholders and ex officio IT members. The Grand Traverse Band of Ottowa and Chippawa Indians, who employs me in the Natural Resources Department, City of Traverse City, Grand Traverse County, Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Michigan Hydro Relicensing Coalition, Traverse City Light and Power, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the ex officio IT Conservation Resource Alliance, Grand Traverse Conservation District, Grand Traverse County Road Commission, Rotary Camps and Services, the Watershed Center of Grand Traverse Bay, and Garfield Township. There are extensive funders involved in this besides what's listed here, and it would take quite a long time to mention everyone that's contributed. The implementation team, like I mentioned earlier, was put in place to try to decide the fate of these 4 structures, or to at least decide the feasibility for the fate of these structures, and began in, it was funded, and the feasibility study for this system began at around 2005. It encompassed well over 1,000 individuals and over 180 public meetings, which is kind of a stat that's been used for a couple of years now. So we're probably up in the realm of several thousand people and several hundred meetings. Tuesday night meetings at the Civic Center and or various places through the town to get community input was a monthly practice. It was just an amazing collaboration of all the folks you see on this implementation team and all the partners that are involved in this process. Anytime you bring together, the United States government, a sovereign nation, city, county, state DNR, it really is an amazing collaboration of folks towards a certain goal. The Boardman River dams, and specific to the project that we're involved in at this point, is the first of the dams to be removed will be the Brown Bridge Dam, which is currently in the process of deconstruction, and we'll catch up with that a little bit later. But there are 4 dams along the Boardman River. Brown Bridge Dam, built in 1922, Saden Dam, 1903, Boardman Dam, 1894, Union Street Dam, that's late 1800s. The watershed that the Boardman River, that encompasses the Boardman River, is 287 square miles, and it has a profound significance on the quality of life in the entire Grand Traverse region. It provides over 30% of the flow in the Grand Traverse Bay. It supports over 2 million recreational use days per year. You can see the Union Street Dam is the closest to the lake. Saden and Boardman Dams, and Brown Bridge Dam, which is the current deconstruction process, is about 18 miles upstream from the lake. Environmental benefits. This project will restore over 3.4 miles of river. Those are the sections that are currently impounded. More importantly, reconnects over 160 miles of high-quality river to restore Mother Earth's life-giving artery to the Great Lakes, and Hank will touch on that a little bit later. We'll restore more than 310 acres of wetland and adjacent riparian emergent upland habitat. Those wildlife, those corridors that are segmented because of the 4 dams. Really 3 of the dams. The closest Union Street Dam is relatively urban in character. But the other three dams will open up an extensive riparian corridor for the river to run through, and for terrestrials and fish habitat. Diverse, certainly a more diverse habitat than what we're seeing now. Along with environmental benefits, community benefits are very difficult to measure, to actually measure directly. There's a significant economic impact, the businesses that'll grow, the businesses that will change as the entire watershed is recreated in its own form, or it's in a form that is more true to its original form, a free-flowing system. Recreational opportunities will be vast within this diversified riparian corridor, and it'll certainly promote tourism and business growth. And part of the community benefits that we looked at, we broke off in several working groups, becoming committees in charge of plans for this, for each effort. There's a bottomlands working group, there's for the community benefits, for the socio-economic recreation benefits. We actually we have some folks that were involved in helping to fund what's called the prosperity team, and there are some folks in this room that all have a great stake in this. One of them, a fellow Andy Knott here from the Watershed Center, is the chair for the prosperity team. And if you wouldn't mind, Andy, would you say a couple words regarding it?
Sure. So the prosperity plan is an offshoot of this. We realized that this was a huge opportunity for this watershed, and big changes in terms of the ecosystem. And so we decided, a group of organizations decided that we ought to develop a new watershed plan because the dams are coming out. But then we also realized that it would be important to not just have it be a traditional EPA 9-element run-of-the-mill plan, that it ought to be a little more specialized and take into account the economic and social issues of the watershed. And so that's why it became the prosperity plan. We had a leadership team that is very diverse. It includes sort of the traditional conservation groups that you might expect, but it also includes the Traverse City Chamber of Commerce, the Traverse Area Association of Realtors, local units of government are involved, and so we're about a little over halfway through developing this new plan that we're hoping will be a model for how watershed plans will be conducted in the future in Michigan and throughout the country. That you know, there is a clear connection. We always say it. We always say there's a connection between ecological values and the economy and social values. But we'd like to be able to demonstrate that and actually have one plan that sort of incorporates all that for the first time. So that's the idea behind the prosperity plan and the prosperity team.
Thanks, Andy. The the collaboration involved in this project is really unparalleled. It's amazing the amount of diverse stakeholders that are involved in it, that are trying to achieve a common goal. Everybody knows when you have quite a few different components, sometimes the decision-making process is a little bit more difficult than it would be. And in this case, it continues to amaze me, the dedication of the folks that are really involved in this process at a level to where they're rolling their shirt sleeves up and get right into the nitty-gritty of every component of this, and to have folks from all these both stakeholders, ex officios, and local community groups involved for the same goal it really is an amazing process. I can't say enough about how well this is coming through. We also have engaged we've also part of this process is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the IT at this point in the project has raised the funds to give it the ability to provide for the deconstruction of Brownbridge Dam, the farthest upstream dam. The 3 downstream dams, which would be Boardman, Sabin, and Union Street, are under the purview of the project. It's currently being planned and designed through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and their consultant. And if you wouldn't mind, we also have Carl Platts from the Army Corps of Engineers. I just would love if he would say just a word or two on how you think the collaboration is going between the team members.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Well, I think Frank has said it several times already. I mean, it's amazing to be a part of that group, and that doesn't mean that there hasn't been any opposition to it. You know, there are a group of folks that are, you know, wanting to leave things as they are right now. There is some impact to some homes and things like that on the impoundments that have been there for over 100 years, and you know, continuing to work through those issues has been somewhat of a challenge as well. But certainly, you know, we're glad to be a part of the project. We are, as Frank mentioned, proceeding with a feasibility study right now to address the 3 downstream dams. We're using the Great Lakes Fishery and Ecosystem Restoration Authority to proceed with that process. And as Frank mentioned, I mean, this whole started looking at this back in 2005, 2006, somewhere in that time frame. And we've had a couple different changes of direction as the time has gone by, but we do intend to have our report complete here in the next few months. It's got to work through our process, approval process, all the way up to our headquarters in Washington, D.C., and you know, we hope to be able to you know, be ready to move to the next phase of the project by the middle of next year or so. But I think the one thing that you know everyone realizes is, get back to the collaboration issue. You know, when you sit in these meetings, as Frank mentioned, every month there was a public meeting for years. And I think most people in those settings just can kind of sense an opportunity that they're being a part of. And you know, I think most of us will look back someday on this as being one of the hallmarks, one of the highlights of our careers. You know, to be involved in a project like this that's taken a long time. And you know, you focus on all the good things. I mean, there's been some struggles, and there are issues and hard issues to deal with. But you know, that makes it all the more satisfying when you start seeing things like what's happening in Brownbridge right now. So you know, we're glad to be a part of it, and hoping to continue the partnership that we've all achieved.